What if I told you that in 2025, the biggest threat to your physical therapy private practice might not be what I've been telling you in the past episodes, like Medicare cuts and other reimbursement cuts, but how about the fact that Google and ChatGPT cannot find you and your practice? Well, today we're going to be talking about how to actually show up when people search online and how that ties directly in your reimbursements and what you really do in your physical therapy practice. My guest today is a physical therapist, former practice owner, and marketing strategist, Neil Trickett. So stay with us. Welcome back to Your Practice, Your Money, where clinical success meets financial freedom. I'm your host, Dr. Dimitrios Kostopoulos. Today's show, it's going to be very exciting because we are going to discuss about how becoming from invisible to irresistible. And I have my very good friend, Neil Trickett. And Neil is a physical therapist, a former private practice owner, and the CEO of Practice Promotions. Practice Promotions is I'll say, marketing company and beyond that has helped thousands of physical therapy clinic owners across North America to grow their practices with better websites, SEO, Google Ads, and other integrated marketing programs. And actually, Neil has helped us through the years for our own practices. So, hello, Neil.
Hey, Demi, great to be on the show again, and always a pleasure. Good friend for sure.
Thank you, and good to have you with us. And, you know, you are working with hundreds of physical therapy clinics. And how have you seen the evolution of exposure to the different communities of physical therapy private practices the past 5 to 10 years? What have you seen changing? How PTs used to be found by patients and how are being found now?
I've been in the game a long time, so I graduated PT school in 1998 and actually was in a PT clinic as a rehab aide in 1995. So 30 years later, I've definitely had a lot of fun within the profession, seen a lot of evolution and change over that time. And I think we've seen that all accelerate here over the last 5 years, especially right after COVID, right? That changed a lot of things in many, many industries and the world. I think what we have to realize as practice owners is we have to step back and we have to look at the healthcare system has evolved and changed, and so has the public. And we are in a process of change now. And I really think that the old way of doing business is what can be really holding us back in our practices from being financially secure, having many opportunities. There is an enormous amount of opportunities out there for us in our profession if we do it right. And we're seeing leaders within our industry capitalize on that. So, for example, based on some research, if the statistics for the wellness industry in the next 3 to 5 years is going to equal over $3 trillion in the United States, who should be leading that charge, right? It should definitely be the physical therapy industry. We see all kinds of different industries popping up. We see the public wanting to be healthier, investing in their health, in their future. We see a lot of technologies coming out for that. We see gyms popping up everywhere. and not just your traditional gyms, but more of the personalized, higher end, customized type gyms and wellness and nutrition. There's so much happening in this, and the public is wanting that because the healthcare system overall is broken. And so the movement is, hey, we're paying a fortune for healthcare as the public. I'm going to be paying anyway, so let me invest more in wellness services and I want to live longer and all these kind of good things. So we have a great opportunity here. Now that we have a lot of direct access in states, we can go more to the public. We're in the public eye much more than we used to be 10 years ago. And we have to realize that our public is much more informed than they used to be 10, 15 years ago. I remember being in practice, we had the white coat syndrome. The patients come in and we were in a South Florida, so it was more senior population. And they would come in and we're like, well, my doctor said go to PT, eval, and treat 3 times a week for 4 weeks. And we would diagnose in there like, oh, it's this particular issue. Well, my doctor said this. They didn't listen to what I was saying. But what I did was I actually went and bought and monogrammed for my therapist white coats. And so on the evaluation, everybody had to wear their white coat. And that instantly changed the perception of the patient to be, oh, you're an authority figure. Let me listen to you. So
Absolutely.
that was like 15, 20 years ago, the way that people thought. Now people go into their doctor saying, hey, ChatGPT told me this, Google told me this. So your public is going into healthcare much more informed and doing their research online, trying to figure things out for themselves, and then looking for the right people for the solution. So again, this is where if you are not aggressively looking at how you can capitalize on being found online for lots of different things and having that first interaction with people online to choose you over other solutions. Like the ones that are going to lead in this industry and do well and be financially secure are the ones that can really capitalize on that.
15, 20 years ago, we were making like a trifold brochure, and
Mhm.
that was a big deal. My goodness, the practice had a trifold brochure. Now, I often tell owners if your website is just a digital brochure and nobody can find it, it's like putting a beautiful billboard in the middle of the desert that nobody can see it really.
Right.
When you look at practices that are struggling, right,
Mhm.
versus practices that are thriving, what role does this online visibility play in that gap
Mhm.
between these two types of practices?
Even though the game has changed, industry has changed, the technologies of the world, the AI evolution, like all of those dramatic changes that we're going through right now, the fundamentals still hold true. And this is something I learned in business school a long time ago. And that when we're trying to plan financially for our business, right? So we have all these plans like, what do I need to do to deliver more, right? The first step of financial planning is marketing. You have to be able to drive in new business to your business. And if you don't have a good machine on the front end, you can't deliver at a high level and be reimbursed at a high level and then reinvest that into the business. So the first step is marketing in financial planning. And that's something for our audience out there to really get their mind around because that's fundamentals, right? And so what we tend to do is we gravitate to what we know, which is the operations of the business. We know how to treat patients. We know what we should look for there. We worry about the billing. We worry about insurance reimbursement. We're trying to like manage finances and all the pressures under that. And then we neglect the marketing on the front end. And so we don't have the ability to, one, drive in more business, and number two, brand and position ourselves in the marketplace as the go-to experts better than everybody else. And people will pay premium and top dollar for those. So that when you have very good marketing, branding and positioning and online positioning for your practice, you can control so much more in your practice. And this is where if you get so much business coming in, fire those low reimbursement insurances. Bring in more cash pay services, cash service lines, diagnostics, laser, dry needling, whatever you want to bring in, you have to increase the dollar value of each patient coming in. And the only way to do that is to have an awesome reputation, deliver great care, but then promote it well on the front end. And in today's world, if you're not visible online and you can't position yourself against these other competing clinics, but also lots of other online services, you don't have a chance.
People have their priorities reversed many times. And I'm going to give like an extreme example, right? Let's say that a practice has four PTs and other administrative staff, and all of a sudden, numbers of patients decrease significantly for a prolonged period of time. The knee-jerk reaction that many private practitioners will do, they'll try to save money by cutting down marketing. But I'll tell you, in that specific case, if the choice was between having a therapist less, because the fourth therapist is sitting around right now,
Mhm.
versus cutting down in marketing, you should go with letting one therapist go because you cannot use therapist and you are not going to be able to use them until you have more influx of patients or increase the frequency or something like that. But it's an extreme example. Hopefully,
Mhm.
you don't have to do any of this. You can have other approaches to really get enough patients in to cover your schedule. But people sometimes, when they cut down expenses, they're looking at cutting down first in marketing, which is
Mhm.
exactly the opposite of what they should be doing.
Yeah, perfect example there. And that's, we got to look at that. That's a reactionary. So we obviously have long-term business cycles and we have short-term business cycles. And so if you're in this roller coaster where, hey, things are cooking, you're busy, there's a wait list, it doesn't mean that next month you'll have the same problem, right? You might actually have less referrals, some doctors, they went on vacation, whatever. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, where did the new patients go? And then you've got your therapists twiddling their thumbs with many holes in the schedule. And you're like, okay, now let's do some marketing. Let's get this back up and running and get things busy. And then, so it's just roller coaster action that's happening. So how are we being thoughtful? How are we being planful in our practice for long-term success here? It's better to have a wait list so desired in the area and you're just trying to find more therapists. Like that's a better condition to be in than the other way around, right? And so we shouldn't have to be laying off staff if we're being long-term planful with our marketing, with our investments back into the business. But you're right, in those moments, if that does happen, don't pull back on your marketing. Your biggest cost in your business is labor. So where can you trim back on labor in order to make you more viable, more profitable in the business, right? That's kind of the first step. So yeah, you're right that that often happens.
From my side, I'm definitely biased and I'm saying absolutely do not cut in marketing and also put in your practice diagnostics that is going to increase
Right.
significantly your revenues.
Yeah, I would say
But
too there, Jamie, like the things that I'm hearing from practice owners is like, hey, we're busy. And this is great because the demand for PT is going up and up and up. And it will continue to rise here at least over the next decade or more as the boomer generation gets older. And we just have a shortfall of PTs. Over 12,000 PTs we're short right now in the industry. And that, by the APTA projections, that's only going to get slightly better over the next 12 years. We're still going to have a big shortfall in 12 to 15 years time. So unless there's some dramatic changes in the way that we pump people out of school, like there's going to be a shortfall there. So what we need to do in our practice is we need to think with marketing, with branding and positioning and marketing, that's how we can make sure that we are attracting patients to us that are going to be the type of patients that we want to treat for one, and two, can afford the price point that we want to charge that's adequate for our services. If the insurance company doesn't want to pay it, we're going to have to attract patients who want to pay out of pocket more, right? Or add to their services. And we can fire those really terrible insurances, like starting with United Healthcare. What if you didn't have to take United Healthcare, or if everybody was out of network? Because we see plenty of those clinics out there that are doing that, where they're going out of network. We're not taking that low reimbursement anymore because we can demand it on the front end and attract people who want to pay us out of network because they see the difference, and that comes down to, again, branding and positioning. If the person online can see that you are different than somewhere they tried before, they're more willing to give you a shot and pay out of pocket, out of network to come with you. And then that translates into getting that average patient visit dollar much, much higher. And guess what? Now you can attract the right talented therapists to come work for you because you can pay them better. And this goes on and on in the cycle, right? And so marketing also plays a big role in how we can recruit talent to our practice to come work for us to deliver more. And the branding and positioning online goes just like it would for new patients, goes hand in hand to how you're going to attract top talent to come work for you.
One of the hottest topics that people are talking all the time about is AI and how AI affects different parts of a physical therapy practice, from documentation to scheduling. And how about marketing? What's the role of AI in the whole marketing area?
Yeah, AI is fascinating. It's an incredible tool. And I think we got to look at it as a tool. It reminds me very much of where we were in the 90s with the rise of the internet. And everybody's freaking out like, oh, there's going to be such a loss of jobs because the internet's coming. There's going to be no retail stores anymore. Everything's going to be online. And there's a lot of hype. And then there's reality. And then things will very much change over time. We've seen how things have evolved and rapidly changed in the short time, the 3 years AI has been public with. And so we have to embrace that. And we also have to be realistic about it. So AI is not going to replace a gazillion jobs. It's going to make jobs more efficient for sure. And we've got a lot of opportunities within the clinic to make things much more efficient. From the AI perspective with marketing, it can give us a lot of great tools. It can help us with planning. It can help us give us ideas. It can help with copywriting. So there's a lot that we can do with AI from the marketing perspective. Our team uses a ton of AI across all our different departments to help us analyze what's working, to help us with copywriting, to help us with all kinds of implementation for practices. The thing that we want to also look at is how are people behaving online as they are searching for help? Are they going to Google us? Are they going to go on ChatGPT? And what we saw with the first part of AI was that ChatGPT kind of led the charge on that. And people go, oh, ChatGPT is going to take out Google. Well, Google, being Google, smart,
Oh, definitely.
they quickly came back and totally evolved last year. Now, people searching online with ChatGPT, yes, that's happening, but maybe that's about 10%. 90% are still going through Google searches, all the things that are tied in with Google searches. And so people are getting their answers more from the AI component of Google. But here's the key thing to understand is like, okay, I want my clinic to show up in AI searches when someone's saying, hey, what's the best physical therapy place near me? Or how can I help my knee? Or how can I help my shoulder feel better? Like these type of queries that are going on out there. And so what's really interesting to understand is like, where does AI pull its information from? Well, most of what it's doing is it's scraping what's on Google, what's on search engines, also on websites, what's on social media. So it does pull from these different platforms. But the key one is if your clinic is ranked really well on Google in the local map section, with the reviews and everything, and also in the ads there, if it's also popping up in the top 10 organic, if you have your clinic showing up there, there's a much, much higher likelihood that it's going to pull your recommendations into the AI search because the AI search is going to pull up what most people are looking for or what's popping up the most. And so that's the key thing to understand is like, how do I get my practice really on ChatGPT better? How do I get it on Gemini better or Claude better? Well, if you do better overall in ranking on Google, because that's still the 800-pound gorilla in the room, you're going to do much better on ChatGPT and all these other things. The other component to really leveraging AI is that we have to realize how we pulled up on Google for keywords like physical therapy. And we did a lot with the keyword part of it and also links from other websites. And all these things are still very critical. But we need to look at how we are putting more content on our website because that does pull better into Gemini, into ChatGPT. So we want to make sure that do we have a process in place for consistently putting out content writing blogs, writing emails, writing posts. Like these kind of things we have to do more of in our marketing, and that helps us get found a lot better in these new AI type searches.
You had helped us create a whole program with Google and with Google reviews. And what we noticed was up to a certain point, the more Google reviews we were able to obtain, the more new patients directly from the community were coming into our practice. So we found that up to a certain point, there was a correlation between new patients were coming in, the more Google reviews we had.
Mhm.
And even right now, if you go and you check physical therapy Astoria, Queens, you're going to see hands-on physical therapy with 1,500 reviews.
Mhm.
And the second, they have like, I don't know, 110 reviews or something.
Yeah.
So that really created a drive.
Mhm.
And I see that for myself when I go to search for a product, for example. I
Mhm.
want to see what people say about that product. If it has a good rating and enough of a rating, then I
Yeah.
try to choose that.
So here's the interesting thing with that and how we should approach it in our practice is we think that just getting the volume of reviews will help us rank higher in Google. That's not true. About 10 15% of how Google ranks things is from reviews. So that's really not that much. There's a lot of other factors that go into ranking your clinic up on Google. However, it really is about people's trust and the behavior of people. And so in today's world, we are looking for validation. We are looking for trustworthy places because there's a lot of scams, there's a lot of fluff out there. And so the public is so skeptical today. And you need to have a lot of third party validation, right? You need to have a lot of reviews, and that needs to be on Google, it needs to be on Facebook. You need to tell stories. So people want to see that you are actually getting results and they want to hear it from other people. And so that is an incredibly powerful process within your clinic that you need to have worked on. And a lot of clinics don't put a lot of effort into that. They're like, oh, yeah, we get some reviews here and there. Google wants to see consistent reviews. And so it's not about, hey, let me get 50 reviews in 1 week. It's like, let me get two in a week, but let me keep getting that week after week after week. And I'll keep building up those things. Again, it doesn't matter from, am I going to rank higher because I have 1,000 reviews and you have 100? No. The impression that you're going to have with people when they see you, even if you're in third place, and another clinic is in first place with 100 reviews, but in third place, you have 1,000 reviews. They're going, whoa, this place must be good, right? And they start to check out those reviews, and that gives them more of that feeling of trust. So the volume of reviews does come into play there in someone wanting to check you
Selection.
out versus someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it does make a difference to be listed in the first page of
Oh,
Google
you have
instead
to.
of going.
Yeah. There's being visible, and then there's being visible with trust. And so, what we want to do is be visible with trust. And that means we want to show up as many times on that first page of Google as possible. So, if I'm a patient and I just see you one time in the map section, but then I see another practice that has an ad at the top, an ad in the map section, they're in the map section, and they're also in that top three of the top 10. If they have 4 spots on Google and you only have one, I'm more likely as a consumer to click the one with 4 impressions on that first page. So we have to think about that too. We want to be using Google Ads so we can show up at the top of Google, and we want to have as many spots on page one of Google as possible because it's how people will choose us more over others.
That's very, very important. So I see that more and more private practitioners, I hear them being frustrated a lot. Frustrated with reimbursements, frustrated with being unable to find staff to staff their offices, especially physical therapy professionals. I would say those two are the top
Yeah.
two items that I hear. From what you hear from providers, what can you offer here? What do you hear from them?
Absolutely. Yeah. I talk with many, many different practice owners, all different sizes, solopreneurs to, enterprise level clinic owners. And yeah, two biggest issues, payment and staffing, right? So we are in an inflection point in our practice. And you and I are both from the old school. We were there when the doctor made all the referrals. You only had to live off of a doctor referral. And we've just seen that change over time. And we're actually at a point now where it's come to a head, right? It's come to a head where what I got paid 25 years ago as a therapist is exactly the same as now in today's dollars, right? But what I got paid by the insurance company was twice as much in today's dollars. So we should be earning as a per patient visit, roughly $200 per patient visit. That's where we should be. We have to work with that realization, right? And so we've been trying to keep the old model going as long as we can. And my question to the audience is, if insurance no longer paid for physical therapy, what would you do? How could you run your business? If you look at what the chiropractic profession has to do, right? You would have to turn into that. You would have to be very good at marketing your services and selling your services in the clinic. In chiropractic school, you get that kind of training, right? Because most people are going to open their own practice, they're going to have to sell their services cash, and that's the way it works. But we've been under the thumb of doctors and insurance companies since inception, and now we're in a different place. And so we cannot operate our business that way anymore. We have to evolve, we have to change. And the struggle that you feel in your business is you don't have the control. So, what can you do to control things? And that is, you have to know what money you need to make per patient visit in order to have good profitability, like 15, 20% profitability in your practice. What's that number for you? And a good way to do this is, what's the multiple that each therapist needs to bring in? It's usually 3 to 5 times multiple of what that therapist costs you, right? After salary, benefits, all that kind of jazz. If they cost you, say, $100,000, well, they need to be bringing in $300,000 to $500,000 per year for that therapist. So that's something to work with. Okay, what does it work out per visit? Well, that's what I need to be making. If I can't get insurances to pay me that amount, well, I'm going to fire some of them. I'm going to go out of network, and I'm going to look for other cash service lines I can bring in, like diagnostics, for example, to increase that dollar value to where it needs to be. And then once you get there, you have much more control in your business. You have control over money. You have control of the ability to grow. And again, that comes first step is the marketing, branding, and positioning so that you can be the best in the area. People see it, they want to pay for your services. That's what we have to sell on the front end. That is key. And we are also in a part in our profession where, again, the demand is there, which is a lot of industries would kill to have what we have, right? The
Oh,
demand for
definitely.
our services, it's phenomenal, right? And we just don't have enough people to staff it. So again, it comes back to, you're going to have to fight for talent. That's just a given. And the market, it's supply and demand. And we're in a position where there's a huge amount of demand and not enough supply. So guess what? You have to get really, really good at marketing why someone should come work with you. And that's the clinics that are going to survive, the ones that are going to thrive are the ones that can do that really well.
Recent legislation that requires for foreign trained PTs to come to the United States under an H-1B visa, they require $100,000 to
Mhm.
be paid by the employer just to submit an application. I am an advocate, and I have been speaking publicly about that I would like the APTA to petition some sort of exemption for
Mhm.
specific professions, including healthcare professions, to this legislation. Because judging for myself, for example, I came to the United States in 1987 under an H-1 visa. And I have created big things and I have contributed significantly to the PT profession and society in the United States. But you know what? Perhaps if back then there was that law that required $100,000 to be paid by a practice to bring a foreign trained PT, maybe I wouldn't have been in this
Yeah.
position where I am today. And I see that this has the potential to affect especially small and medium-sized practices and perhaps give an advantage to larger hospital organizations and larger companies that they are in a position to pay $100,000 to bring foreign trained PTs.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And so we have to look to, we have to advocate for certain things, right? And I think that's really important to advocate in your profession for what you think is right. Like, I agree, being able to bring in foreign trained therapists, professionals is key. That's definitely been a growth in many industries that we've had. We need to continue to advocate for payment changes, staffing policy changes, things like that. However, we have to look at what can we control also, right?
Absolutely.
In our practice, what can we control? Well, we control how we market and brand and position ourselves, right? We can control how we operate. We can control what insurances we want to take. We can control, let me bring in some cash service lines. Let me become more of a hybrid practice, which is the future. I mean, you got to become a hybrid practice today. And I can control money where it's coming in and out of. So, like, if you feel out of control in your practice, if you feel squashed by all this outside pressure, what can you control in your practice?
Absolutely. And I say that many times that advocacy is the long term planning. But
Yes.
what are you going to do right now? I mean, people are saying, okay, we're going to advocate for higher reimbursements. Yes, we will. Absolutely. But that is long term planning. What do you do right now to
Mhm.
increase your reimbursements, to increase your revenue in your practice, to be able to hire people more effectively in your
Well,
practice?
I was recently at the APTA's PPS conference. I sat down having lunch, just chatting with some other practice owners, and they're complaining about reimbursement. I'm like, oh, well, tell me about your major carrier. And United Healthcare was their biggest account. And I'm like, well, what are they paying you? Like, oh, $50, $55. I'm like, why are you taking that? Oh, because we're a network, we have to. Like, you don't have to do that, right? There's plenty of other practices I know that take that out of network. And it comes from this like, oh, if we drop that, then how are we going to get new patients? There's plenty of people out there that are willing to pay out of pocket for extra services, right? And so, send the low reimbursement ones to the hospital where they get paid differently than you do an outpatient. Again, it comes back to if you can control how you brand and market and position yourself, especially online, you have these opportunities to say no to really bad reimbursement. And guess what? Enough of that happens in the marketplace. United pays attention, like, oh, we have a problem here because we can't get patients into services. We'll have to come back to the table, right? That will happen at some point.
This is awesome. And the whole podcast has been fantastic. For the clinic owners who want to go deeper with you in some of the stuff we discussed today, or maybe they want to learn more about your strategies or see how your team can help them, what's the best place for them to find you?
Practicepromotions.net, probably the easiest thing to do. Go to our website. You can download our free marketing kit and get our free book, Market to Grow, which will help you look at the key strategies that are working for the top 10% of clinics. Follow me on social. Follow me on Instagram, Neil Trickett PT. And then also our practice marketing podcast is on there too. So tons of free resources for you. Check it out. You can definitely get a lot of great ideas from it.
Let me leave you with this thought. Your clinical outcomes can be amazing, can be world class. Your team can be dedicated and caring. But if search engines don't know you exist, well, you are leaving care and money on the table. In today's podcast, you heard how strong marketing systems, smart marketing systems, can give you more leverage in this world of low reimbursements and hiring challenges. And Neil shed a lot of light on these areas. So, Neil, thank you for being here today and for all of the work that you have done for the PT profession and for sharing with me your amazing ideas, not only on the show, but also off the show.
Thank you, Demi.
If you enjoyed this conversation today, please do me a favor, follow us or subscribe to Your Practice, Your Money on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And leave a rating and a quick review because it really helps other practice owners to find out about our show. And share this episode with another PT owner who you know is struggling with their marketing and they can find some value on what Neil shared with us today. To all of you listening, see you next week. Until then, keep building clinical success and financial freedom. Take care.